There's a couple other concerns for me, Herc, that come out of this. I think Vlatko Andonovski is a very good coach. I think he's really good at picking players. I think he's really good at developing players. I think he's really good at analyzing games. But one thing that coaches need in tournaments is the ability to make those in-game adjustments. And I don't know if you picked up on this or you felt this watching the USA-Sweden game. I felt like Sweden was on the front foot from the first minute, and that never, ever changed. That despite the fact that there were subs at halftime, there were changes throughout the match. Whatever Vlatko Andonovski tried didn't really seem to work because Sweden really, Herc, never let up momentum.
They never let up momentum, which is strange when you think about the actual subs because you've got a player like Alex Morgan who has this incredible ability to stretch opponents. She's got an innate ability to understand where the ball is going to be, make that run, beat you, get in behind you, and hurt you. So you have a player like that who didn't have any service in the first half, very limited in her touches back to goal in her own half. You take her out at halftime and you put in a goal scorer, yes, a goal scorer, but now in the 36-year-old range, who's not quite going to be that player who's going to run onto balls, maybe getting on the end of things, with a team that's still pressing you, with a team that's still playing with a high back line. So if you know they have a high back line and you know that there will be moments for you to probably counter and use pace because, like you said, Sweden never let up. If you know that's going to happen, why take Alex Morgan out? It was a bit of a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, that one was really surprising. Alex Morgan not just coming off, but coming off at the half, right? 45 minutes in, that's a big, big decision for Vlatko Andonovski. And Herc, I don't know, maybe you thought Alex Morgan really struggled in that first half. I didn't really think she struggled, like you said.
I didn't think it was on her. When you think about who struggled or what they weren't good at, they weren't good at retaining possession. That's not on the 9 playing by herself back to goal, who's forced to defend in her own final third. That's more on the midfield. That's more on the outside backs. I've always been, look, this is my mantra is show me your outside backs and what they can do with the ball, and I'm going to show you how good, I'm going to tell you how good your team can be going forward. Well, Sweden took that away from the women, for the women's national, for the U.S. women's national team. They put the onus on the midfield to try to keep the ball, and they couldn't keep the ball. When Julie Ertz came on at halftime, a bit more of a physical presence that was sorely needed, and yes, more bites and you get more possession, but that was it. She was the only one. Then all of a sudden it was Rose Lavelle, it was Julie Ertz trying to find outlets and trying to have players run onto it. But Sweden was so disciplined in the way they attacked. There were never any moments where they lost the ball that the U.S. can really hurt them.
One more note on Alex Morgan. You had her to be Golden Boot at plus 600 before the tournament. Always think like managers got to keep strikers confident. We talked about Alex Morgan, who was coming in hot, scoring goals in the NWSL. How often did we see it at Euros where there were forwards on teams that were highly criticized? And in most cases, the big cases that I can think of, Spain, Italy, England, the managers stuck with those forwards. They didn't pull them at 45. I think that opens up some doubts for a player like Alex Morgan. That's not the start that you want if you're the U.S. women's team. Let me ask you about another player, Herc, one that wasn't in the starting lineup, and that's Megan Rapinoe. Do you agree with the decision to keep Megan Rapinoe out of the 11 against the Swedes?
I don't, because you have to put your strongest team in the first game against Sweden, probably your strongest opponent that you'll face all tournament, if I'm being honest. Megan Rapinoe is such a good player, and if you feel that she can hurt the opponent, start her. Don't let her come in when she's cold. And by the way, she came in cold in those final 20 minutes and was the brightest spot the U.S. had. Constantly being a danger, put in a couple services that warranted much more than a post or much more than a close shot, and she made players around her better. Christian Press, was benefited by Megan Rapinoe being on the field. Megan Rapinoe is a playmaker. Megan Rapinoe was your Golden Boot last World Cup. She's one of the team leaders. I was really taken aback by the decision-making of Vlatko in this game. You spoke about it, the ability to in-game management, the Alex Morgan substitution, and now you kill your player confidently. One of the goal scorers of your team, you kill her confidence, and maybe unfairly also Carly Lloyd and Megan Rapinoe. Those were head scratchers for me, and I think moments that can cost the women's national team, the U.S. women's national team, mentally.
I wonder about rotation and how that factors into all this as we look at the U.S. 11 from the game against Sweden. You know, there are 6 games, Herc, in 17 days. So Vlatko Andonovski is thinking about kind of a lot of what's to come when he makes these decisions. The one thing I would say is a rotation has to work, right? If you give players a rest, the other players have to step up and deliver you the results. The consequences of this miscalculation, and that's what it is when it comes to the rotation, is that the U.S. probably won't win this group. And I said it on the last show, that sets up for a World Cup final rematch in the quarterfinals against the Dutch, who just had Vivian Miedema drop 4 goals. So as we talk about this and we think about a tournament,
wasn't it?
My player to watch.
Okay.
Let me pat myself on the back. Let me ask you this, not necessarily like what changes would you make, but just generally as we talk about Vlatko Andonovski and we look at this lineup. After a 3-0 defeat, are you almost as a manager in a tournament setting just obligated to make some changes just for effect?
Yes, you are, and also because I think the team looked a bit tired. But this puts you behind the 8 ball, Seb, because you go in with a certain game plan. This is my problem with coaches, with managers. All of a sudden, it's like they read Pep Guardiola's a different way of winning, and they try to get cute. I'm going to cater this game one way, and the next game it'll be this way, and I move the pawn and the pieces here, and we're going to be fine because we've got such a deep team, because we're on a 44-game unbeaten streak, because we're the best team in the world, and nothing is going to happen. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Okay, Mike Tyson said that, and it's so true. They just got punched in the face. What do you do now? The next game is a must-win game. So that goes out the window. You have to put in the team that you think is going to get you those 3 points. And next game, you worry about the next. But this is going to be a domino effect for this very, mature team going on into the quarters.
Yeah, you said mature, and we talked a lot about the age leading up to this tournament, average age over 30. It's interesting that you mentioned that they were tired. What I think is the opposite of that is that if you're experienced, you should be able to handle difficult moments. And that's another thing that didn't happen in this game. Megan Rapinoe afterwards said they were tight and they were nervous. When have you ever thought of the U.S. women's national team as nervous, Herc?
It's true. But, I'll tell you what, I've never seen the U.S. women's national team get bullied this way, physically. O'Hara and Crystal Dunn, O'Hara was on the ground, I can't tell you how many times. She was getting physically beat up. I've never seen a team manhandle physically the U.S. women like I saw Sweden. Sweden looked faster, they looked stronger, and they looked fresher, and you could tell.
Yeah, when you say physically manhandled too, we're also talking about the absence of Julie Ertz, right? Ertz is not 100% 90-minute fit. You saw the difference she made once she came on in the second half. But at the end of the day, if you don't have Julie Ertz, it changes very much, I think, what the ceiling of this national team is.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.